I know what your question is. Oh, I know what you want to know. I have a question for you, you Muppets. What did Montezuma's Aztec sound like? And now we know. Wow, this is a video from Native Lung. And I hope that he did a good job. I see he has a lot of these. Like one about ancient Egyptian. Oh, it's the same guy who did the Latin one. I actually had some disagreement on the Latin one. We might review that one next time. If you're interested, link in the description for his channel. But most importantly, if you want me to make a reaction to underline all the aspects and the areas of disagreements that I had with the original video in Latin, leave me a comment. If I see enough, I'll do it. But for now, Montezuma it is. Let's go.
Montezuma ran a vibrant empire from one of the world's largest cities, with an amazing headdress. But unlike his Mayan neighbors, he didn't leave us books and monuments full of sentences. And yet we know the Aztecs called him Hueytlatoani,
He also, they also burnt quite a few books, unfortunately.
not emperor, that he didn't call chocolate chocolate, and that Montezuma is not how he said his name.
Of course.
No, that's not it either.
Let's go. Let's go.
After college, I went through linguistics withdrawal, so I tore through any languagey book I could, including Empires of the Word. Right away, there's this epic encounter between Spanish conquistadors and the Aztec emperor.
Yeah.
But if we see a people inevitably about to be wiped from history, this book saw two high cultures meeting across a great divide, each telling their own story in their own words. I lowered the book. Their own words. We know how Montezuma spoke? Turns out we do. Partly because while some brought swords to the New World, others reached for pens and informants. They wrote histories and dictionaries and rough grammars with helpful tips about Aztec, well, the Mexican language, Nahuatl. Tips like when you see two consonants in a row, pronounce both. A house was Cali, not calle, like if this were Spanish.
Yeah, I was going to say we give the perspective of, Castilian at least.
Tips like there are only 4 vowels,
Huh.
a, e, I, o.
That's
So if you
easy.
spot an U, it's really just an O in disguise. The word for flower is xochitl. Vowels can be long too. A, e, I, o.
Yeah, that would be obviously a characteristic of it. Doesn't surprise me because, of course, ancient languages did have this length or quantity differentiation. Latin, for instance, had basically 10 vowels, 5 being short, 5 being long. Japanese still maintains a full-on differentiation between long and short vowels. English tended to go for diphthongs, but Anglo-Saxon did have this differentiation. The only thing, though, the way he did it, since he's all about linguistics, then I am going to be a little pedantic on his linguistics. Listen to the way he did the long vowel.
Word for flower is xochitl. Vowels can be long too. A, e, I.
See, he did e, and he's making a difference in quality. So usually, at least in ancient languages, in my experience, if there is a difference between short e and long e, the quality doesn't change. E versus e, rather than e versus e, because now you're changing both length and quality, unless he has a reason to think that the vowel will be closed in its long format. But in this case, I don't think it's that deep. I think he just approximated it.
A flower isn't just xochitl, it's xochitl.
Cool.
Spelling is clunky, but it works if we see it as Spanish letters layered over simple Aztec sets. Sa, se, si, so, ka, ke, ki, ko, tsa, se, si, so.
Cool.
Linguists would have done a better job, but bygones. Above all, the old grammars show off the structure of Nahuatl. Nouns attach affixes. Oh, do they ever? Nantli, nantzintli, tonan, tonantzin, titonantzin, tonantzine. Verbs use incorporation, jamming things we'd call different words into a single verby body. Niqua, nitlaqua, nitamalqua. The grammar only gets more fun from there. But there's a lot these pre-modern grammars don't tell us. Take a concrete example, an important one, chocolate.
Yes.
We suspect it must have come from chocolat, bitter water, but
Oh,
there's no
that's cool.
trace of that in the early literature.
That could be interesting. Bitter water. Note how he's pronouncing the X as a sh. I did know that that's how it's pronounced. So he must have done his research on this, which is good. I always appreciate that. In fact, Mexica is how they refer to themselves. And even though it's spelled Mexica, and it's where Mexico comes from as a word, I always thought that to be Fascinating. Because many people don't know that. And another thing that many people don't know is that Mexico is in North America, geographically. And you thought it was in Central America. And you're wrong.
In classical times, the
Google
base
it.
word for the bean and the drink was cacahuat.
Ah,
To sort out all these missing words and sounds,
cacao.
let's look into Montezuma's future
okay.
and his past.
Right.
Montezuma's Aztecs also had books, Amochtli. I was always told Amochtli were full of pictographs, not real writing, but experts are taking a second look. Spell the word siwat, woman, as you like. Here's how one glyph does, with 2 bars. The bars stand for the syllable wa. Compare that to the way colonial writers spelled the sound w. Awakat, weyi, no siwao. So this isn't a vowel u, it's an H plus U representing the consonant w. But our best evidence comes from modern mouths. Yep, people still speak Nahuatl. They may call it Masewali, meaning
Probably like a highly Anese language, probably a bit like Italian is to Latin.
commoner, or even just Mexican, but they help pin down its sounds. Those UHs do indeed correspond to WUs. There
So-
really are just 4 vowels, and this 4th vowel drifts freely between O and U, which explains those earlier spelling variations. And elephant in the room, or jaguar in the temple, but this TL all over the place is kla. You'll even hear 2 K sounds, as in skull, kalli, plus a tricky qu made by rounding your lips, qua, quika. This sound can even end a syllable, te. The spelling here
Wow.
is awkward and inconsistent. Today, I'm going with this one. Tie all this pronunciation analysis together and we can dig up a glimpse of what Montezuma's name sounded like
Yeah.
in his day.
Let's go.
Montezuma. Montezuma.
Montezuma. That actually sounds cooler. We should use that.
But out of respect, you might want to add the polite suffix Montezumazin. Did you hear that? Tsin, not tsin.
Yeah, it's highly nasalized. Once again, doesn't surprise me. There is a lot of nasalization in ancient languages. Although then again, this is not ancient. I like to underline. People, when they, at least the Aztecs, we're talking 14th century. 14th century. Not that, like we're not talking Maya, okay?
Certain consonants were voiceless at the end of a syllable. Try this one, no cacao, with a voiced w in the middle and a voiceless w at the end. L's are particularly noticeable there. Not altepet, but altepet. But there were still too many unknowns. Remember your favorite sound? Well, some speakers ditch it. They say Nahuatl or Nawal. Who's
Wow.
right? Or take this H before a
Well, who is right? Probably regional variations. I mean, at the end of the day, you go to London, depending on which area, you hear all sorts of droppings. The H particularly, actually. Do you have it?
Colonial texts imprecisely called it a saltillo, a skip. Come on, the IPA wasn't even invented yet. Today, most people say mexica. A
Yes.
few say mexica. Which one's older? Zoom out from Nahuatl to see its siblings, cousins, parents, grandparents. Carefully comparing them for patterns, linguists proved they're part of a Uto-Aztecan family that stretches from Central America up to the western U.S.
Fascinating.
Linguists, including this guy, Worf, placed Nahuatl within that history. Worf worked out that an early T sound changed into T. Oh, so Nahuatl is older. Wait. Later linguists showed this change applied to the entire Nahuan branch. Nahuatl and Nawal were the innovations. So keep practicing your T. That pesky saltillo, that sound you lop off words when you bar them, even if it's the Aztec name for themselves, that was even more elusive. But hard work showed a syllable final stop, like a K or a T, turning into a catch in your throat before becoming the popular
Oh, I
sound.
see. So maybe it's a little. Actually, sometimes we do it in English. Like I've heard people. Of course, you can like with a T at the end. There are people that pronounce forget, forgot. I might be among those with a fully pronounced T at the end. But there are plenty of people that go into forget, forgot. And if you really think about it, it's not. You're not saying forget. You are ever so slightly beginning the pronunciation and then ending it in what it's usually technically called a glottal stop. So you are pronouncing something at least when you go forget, forget, forgot. Did you forget? Don't forget.
In the old days, they said Mexicat, Tlatoli, Tlatoani.
Okay, and then it's
Oh, and
simplified.
they stressed the second to last syllable.
Second to
Cuicat,
last.
Weyi Tlatoani.
Cool.
So Aztec had a family. It also had neighbors, unrelated Mesoamerican neighbors that all shared the same features, including a special ritual language. Aztec ritual speech was unlike the common Masewali speech. Elite schools, Calmecac, taught noble children the old ways, in Huehuetlatoli. So if you've been paying attention, you know that Xochitl means flower and Cuicat means song.
I had already forgotten that.
Well, you still need ancient parallelisms to grasp the noble phrase Inno Xochiu, Inno Cuicao, a stylish way to say, my poem.
Wow.
This is the same ritual language from my tale of the fall of the empire, in Matzin, in Motepetzin, just to say, your city. He was at the crossroads of an ancient language, one that wasn't just about articulating Nahuatl sounds or building intricate words, but making your speech ring with poetry, like a real emperor. I mean, Weyi Tlatoani. Stick around and subscribe for language.
Wow, and I mean, if Montezuma tells us that. Okay, cool. You know, I like the video, but then again, I don't know enough to really see if he is correct or not, but it was interesting. I will react to the Latin one, where I believe I can provide more useful commentary. But with that being said, I hope this was enjoyable, and thank you very much for watching.